Hey, thanks very much for being here today. July 12th, 2015, down a little bit, down. Ward 1 City Town Hall meeting, and it's not closed to any of the other wards. We announced that, and thanks very much. In specifics, Serena, Sullivan, and I talked about having this meeting a couple of months ago, and the genesis is to listen to what people in Bisbee have to say about the incident at Safeway and what's going on. This was in my mind, and what's been going on since the incident. I know some people here tonight want to express some historical incidences and things. I'm not going to try to quell that, but that is not why I called this meeting. It's to see what we're doing moving forward with what happened and how we can prevent it from happening. And the reason for this meeting is to listen to what you have to say. A couple of things right off the start. I do not have a copy of the incident report. One is ready for me to pick up. So I personally am not able to answer any questions if anybody has read that report about the whys and what fors and what's in the report. I haven't seen it, so I have no answers. The police are not here, and they were told or advised not to be here for that very reason, because they may not have read the report and they may not have answers for you. So it's just best that they weren't here. But you're here, and that's what matters. Is I'm here to listen to what you have to say, and take it to heart, and part of it, it will inform me going forward with how we deal with policy making, particularly with the police department.
Hello, my name's John Chappell. I live in Don Louis, and seems to be kind of a hotbed of activity for Bobby Coronado. Anyway, in 2004, my friend's house was burglarized. I called the police. They would not show up. They asked me, would I secure the residence? They met no time did they come and check it out. I nailed the doors shut. 2 weeks later, Bobby Coronado and the Silva showed up at my door. They said they smelled marijuana. They said they were going to take me to the police station for questioning, or they were going to come in. One or the other. I said, no, I do not allow that. And they both went, we smell marijuana, we're coming in. And they went like this, and they footballed me through the door. 2 of them like that. Pushed me into the wall. I have a witness who I'm sure she's afraid to come forward and speak, because Bobby Coronado is a very dangerous individual. And I want people to know this. I am deathly afraid of him for my life.
He's a scumbag.
All right, well, Manny, I agree, but we shouldn't do that.
Don't call anything out like this.
Let's try to keep it under control. I know how Manny feels. His brother was murdered. And to this day, I have no satisfaction, no recourse, but I can tell you, I should not be afraid of the police in my neighborhood, and I'm deathly afraid of them, all of them. They band together, they go against you. They're a group, I'm one person.
The first thing I wanted to say is it isn't us and them, it's just us. One of our police officers is a former employer of mine, another is the child of a dear friend. I'm not interested in bashing the Bisbee Police Department, though I too have my tales, but many of them are very old and I just never came forward, and I don't know that at this point it would be productive. But I do want to see the Bisbee Police Department become safer and more effective. And I want to address this too. I was hoping there would be a representative of the police department here, because if there is a public perception that an encounter with the police will end in violence, or somebody has to go to jail each time the police are called, community members will not call the police when they should. how much crisis intervention training do police officers currently receive? I was told at one point by somebody in the community that in order to get their ASPOST certification, they only require 3 hours, and that doesn't seem like enough, particularly for our community. First responders of all kinds need to be adequately trained so that they can prevent a conflict or de-escalate one. If you know how to respond to a situation, you're less frightened. And police get frightened too, they're people. And I think when people are fearful, that's when confrontations escalate.
Sandra, I am glad that you posed those questions because it gives me an opportunity to let you know what we are trying to do as a community. There is a concerned citizens task force to take a look at how the homeless and how the mentally ill are treated, whether or not they're getting the services that they need, whether or not there are any type of procedures in the police manual. As a matter of fact, our next meeting will be on the 21st of July at 10 o'clock from 10 to 12 in the City Hall chambers, or the City Council chambers in City Hall. And one of the things that we have on that particular agenda is talking about the police manual, what are the procedures now, and how can we improve them? What do we need to do to service these people in our community?
Yeah, my name is Roland Aranjo, and on April 23rd I was tased twice by the Bisbee Police Department, just prior to Carlos being murdered.
That's the day after.
And anyway, so I was behind Safeway on that day that Carlos was murdered, meditating. And all of a sudden I see an officer who looked like Coronado because he's the one that had interrogated me, going towards an encampment that I knew to be Carlos's encampment. And anyway, he kicked it. And at that point then I kind of like took note. And all of a sudden I hear him say, get the, excuse my French, get the F up, get the fuck up, and all of a sudden, shoot him. Cold-blooded murder. Anyway, so I'm one witness to it. I was a little ways away, I'd say maybe about 100 yards-ish away. I know 3 other people that saw the same thing. So anyway, so I welcome you to the Dog and Pony Show, and I'm glad that we live in a country with a constitution and some laws. And I look forward to the family and our community receiving justice for this. For me, what I saw is a senseless murder.
My name is Edward Roman, and I also witnessed the shooting there of Carlos Ramirez. And I saw pretty much what he had saw was the officer walk up after driving up to the trail, pulls up, walks down towards Carlos's, and in Robert Coronado's report, supposedly he kicks him, wakes him up, and then has this big old conversation, which never happened. The only thing that happened was him walking up, kicking Carlos, and when he sat up, he shot him. To me, that's cold-blooded murder. You know, he doesn't have a time frame from when he left the office. It wasn't him. I don't believe it was him. It was another officer, because Coronado pulled up with right after Swan. Swan had overshot the Luna residence, went into Safeway. Bobby Coronado pulls in, almost hits a gentleman right there that was on the Luna residence trying to see you on the other side of the shed. And he runs over, jumps into the spot, takes the blame of it. You know, my little nephew over here, an incident happens a week later where his father's running after, down to see what's going on. Border patrols pull up. Little nephew's traumatized, and the cops thinking he's going to shoot his dad. What kind of, what are they putting out there for the kids, for the new generation, for everybody else, Nothing but fear.
My name is Ruth Ann James, and I thank you for this opportunity to ask some questions that I hope at some point will be answered. In the beginning, we were told that many of our questions may not be answered today, but these questions would be noted and then perhaps researched and answered in the future. And I hope that does occur for the truth to come out so we know exactly what happened. And just for your information, a lot of the questions that are being asked do refer to incident reports, police reports, many of which are available through a public records request. So if anybody is interested, they can research how to request these documents. So hopefully everybody will have access to what the investigation was. And what surprised me was that very soon after the shooting of Carlos Ramirez on April 22nd, is that it was only maybe about 6 weeks after, maybe 7 weeks, that the deputy county attorney came out with a letter that most people have seen, and it has been posted, and in which case the deputy county attorney declared that this was a justified shooting. That is a very, very quick time frame for such a conclusion to be made. It's my opinion that perhaps the deputy county attorney did not have all the information that he probably should have in order to make this determination. And perhaps some of the information that he did have and did review may not have, was not completely credible. From some of the information that I've personally reviewed, I found lots of discrepancies. In statements, in witness statements, in what was said, and in many forms and fashions, but I don't want to go into that because that's not something that can be responded to today. My basic question was, why wasn't an outside agency brought in to do an independent investigation?
Exactly.
Wouldn't that have been prudent, especially given Bobby Coronado's history of prior shootings, prior allegations of excessive force? It's my understanding the three agencies that were involved in the investigation were the Bisbee Police Department, of which Bobby Coronado is an employee, Cochise County Deputy Department, and Sierra Vista. It's my understanding that some officers for the county sheriff were also previous Bisbee Police Department employees. It's also my understanding that perhaps there are crossover employees with Sierra Vista. These men and women in law enforcement protect each other, and rightfully so, and we can all understand that. So it's for that very reason you don't ask one brother to investigate their brother. You're not going to get an independent investigation. The questions that are going to be asked are really not going to be the questions that are going to lead to the findings that would illuminate the truth. The other questions that I have is, looking at some of the public records that have become available, it's still unclear to me who was the first officer on the scene after the shooting. I know we can't answer that question now, but hopefully that could be a question that could be answered. And where was the knife that Carlitos allegedly had, where was that found in relation to his body? There were, in these reports that I have read, the knife was here, the knife was there. Again, I don't want to get into specifics, but those were also some discrepancies.
Eileen Coronado Rodriguez.
I certainly do have statements.
Yes, come right ahead.
Okay, first thing I want to say is that the purpose of this meeting was to find solutions to some of the problems we're having. But I'm not hearing that from any of you guys. All you guys are doing is giving us examples of a few bad people who may or may not. They did the investigation. I see no purpose whatsoever on why we're meeting today. If you want to change something, then bring those up. Don't just bring this shooting up. How can we change the procedures? They are trained. They have training all the time. How can you say, well, they took 16 hours or something to investigate, 16 days to investigate? Well, how do you know that's not enough time? Were you trained? I mean, every situation is different.
This is murder.
And Bobby is not a bad cop. So if he was, he wouldn't be on the force for as long as he was. Is that correct? I mean, do you think he would be on the police department for as many years as he has been if he was a bad cop, and now you're making him out to be a shooter, a murderer, everything else? This has got to stop. It's got to stop. You guys got to go to your city council members and put in your suggestions. You guys got to, but you guys got to stop slamming this guy because it brings nothing. Nothing. So why are you guys doing this? You wanted
Get
to...
back to what really happened. Because he committed
No,
murder.
that was not in the presentation at the beginning. The presentation at the beginning was to come together as a community to see where we can make improvements. And that has not been said. All that has been said is Bobby's this, Bobby's that, Bobby's this, Bobby. No, I haven't heard any solutions. I've heard things, well, it may have taken this long, or we don't think they did a good job. Well, how do you know? Are you trained of telling them who did a good job or who didn't do a good job?
They need to stop scratching each other's back.
No, no. We're all humans.
Exactly.
We're all humans.
We all should be tried the same. Just
He was already tried. It was already case closed.
He hasn't gone to
You
court
guys have got to go on.
Ms. Coronado, you're kind of provoking the crowd. But I do hear what you said. I just don't want to get anybody
I
riled
know,
up.
I'm just saying, at the
He's a
beginning,
murderer.
Please, if you continue, we're going to have to ask you to leave.
it's those type of comments that shouldn't be said anymore. It's over.
Not over.
No, it is.
He's still on the force.
That's right.
There hasn't been a trial yet. There's not been a trial. And all the evidence, the ones that
This is exactly what we got. Hey, stop. 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 This is no crosstalk.
It's all you drugs that cause this shit.
Stop.
Oh my God.
Stop.
Trigger killer.
Stop.
Eileen?
Stop. Is if you can't keep quiet while somebody's talking, you're going to be asked to leave. Because if you're talking, you're not listening. And that's the two best parts of a conversation, the best one being listening. And we're asking you to talk to us with solutions or suggestions. So please, please, talk to us.
I really don't know anything about the shooting, but I would like to say that I think cops have been given by our elected officials undue privileges. I remember when the police asked, they were going to trade a Hummer in for a car, and the city council voted them instantly $6,000. There was no question. If teachers had asked for a new car, forget it. They never would have gotten it. You know, when we come to looking at Stone Garden, the city council votes for Stone Garden. Well, Stone Garden is military, and when you looked at that equipment that the police had, it's military and it is about killing. And that's unfortunate. I think the police are an essential part of any community. And I'm not trying to say, you know, get rid of police. What I'm trying to do is have police be held to the same standards that we're all held to. And not just given money here, not just given money there. You know, police academies are now military academies. So the police you have coming out of the police academies now are trained to kill. I mean, because it's military, and this comes out of the chief of police, whose name I can't remember, he just retired. You all know, Ben. Yeah, so I mean, we have to think about who the police are now. And how can we bring, and this goes out through, it's worldwide, Police are just there to protect the status quo. Usually, 95% of the time, they're used to break up labor unions. That happened here, you know, when Phelps Dodge was here. Police are used not in a way that's constructive for them or for us, because they are the ones who are first responders. They are the ones we ask to help us. And we don't want to be afraid of them, and they don't want to be afraid of us. You know, so how do we take these people now who are more and more trained by military ways? How do we retrain? How do we work together to have police be part of a community that are not going to shoot a homeless guy?
Carlos was not in any condition at the time of his death to be a viable threat to anybody. I spent 10 years of my life with Carlos. I know him probably better than most. And I know he can get agitated, but you can also, he's a small man, 135 pounds at the time of his death. He had a broken clavicle 6 months prior. He had a broken femur. He was not in any means in tip-top shape. When Carlos was a viable threat, back in the day, 30 years ago, when he was up here taking bundles of shingles up on the roof like they were 10-pound sack of potatoes, and pretty rowdy. They didn't seem to have to find excessive force to take him to jail then. So now when he's meek and tired and old and has had a rough life, why excessive force now? Coronado's a large man. Carlos is a little man. He was not, well, I feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions that need to be addressed. I'm losing it here because I just can't think of all what I had to say, but I know that there was a different way to handle this situation. It could have been handled in a better manner. Police training, we all need training. The community as a whole needs training on how to handle our mentally ill people, because there's a lot of them. And we have one that I'm very concerned about now in our community, that something we have to figure out a plan. We've got to pull it together and find a way to get these people the help they need. Regardless, I was told by the judge that we couldn't get Carlos held. I asked them to hold him in jail, have an evaluation done on him, and keep him in jail till the results came back, and then try to work out a treatment regimen before he was released. And I was told that that couldn't be done, that Carlos just needed to go out and get it together and find a job. And so, I mean, when you get told no by the very people that have the power to do something, I have no power to do anything. I'm not blood related to Carlos, so therefore I even have less power. But if we pull together as a community and figure out a way that we can help these people without another death, because I can clearly see, from my opinion, there's going to be another one, and it's not going to be long if something's not done to take care of the situation we have at hand.
You know, it's a danger, unfortunately, in all communities where some people are treated or perceived differently than others, and that kind of tends to subconsciously maybe give people license to treat other people differently than they might treat someone else. If you look at the way our first responders treat everybody, it's unquestionably the same standard applied to everyone across the board all the time, at least in my experience. And I think that's the kind of behavior that we, as a city, expect from all of the city employees and from each other. And I want to say how proud I am to be in a city where these many people care this much about each other.
I've been involved with the Neighborhood Block Watch in Don Luis for a couple of years now. And we've been concerned in talking about the lack of follow-up care for a lot of the people that are living in the city-owned property that is right behind the Safeway. And Carlos, although he was camped on his family's property, was part of this group of people, and we all know that Carlos and many of the people that were living there had addiction problems, and they were being continued to be given drugs by people that are allowed to continue selling them drugs in Bisbee. I'm concerned about an incident that I just experienced Friday afternoon with Angel, who was at the end of my street on Head Start Way in Don Louis, clearly upset and using the dumpsters, the recycled dumpsters, as he was going through the recycled dumpsters and throwing things around, and had set up a little living room situation for himself to sit there with furniture that had been discarded by the dumpster. And I was walking down the street and I saw him there and started picking up some of this stuff that he had been throwing around, and he assaulted me. And I said, Angel, what's wrong? What's going on? And he just started throwing things at me, furniture that he was using. And I didn't want to call 911. I did not want to have a police officer come. So I walked away. I called 911 and reported that Angel was at that location. And I did not want an officer to respond. I just wanted it to be on record that Angel was at that location acting out. 20 minutes later, when I came back with my vehicle, I was going down to Naco Highway to pick up my vehicle that was at the repair shop. 20 minutes later, when I came back, Angel was in my front yard. He was coming out of my front yard, let's put it that way. And my front window was smashed with 3 fist-sized rocks that had been thrown through the window. I spoke to one of the homeless advocates who happens to be living right next door to me. And he said, no, Donna, you have to report this. So I did. I called 911. Officer Long showed up. I did not want to press charges. He just took the report. He saw what had happened. The problem is, in my estimation, is that many of these people that have emotional crises or mental illnesses are not getting the help they need. Calling 911 doesn't get them the help they need either.
First and foremost, I was arrested last week for telling Bobby Coronado that he's a murderer. And I was arrested by Officer Moreno. Anyway, I found out a couple days later that it might have not even been Coronado or whatnot. When I had first found out about Carlos's death, murder, and then I heard it was Coronado, I knew in my heart that it was because of his hot head, his hot temper. He almost left me for dead February 7th of 2008. He was dragging my body with less than a 10% chance of living, and then the EMTs, fought with him in order to, take me to the hospital and get my own care. Yes, I did try killing myself. I suffered through depression. I was born with bipolar, and also I have PTSD from a few situations that had happened to me when I was 8 years old on to 12. So anyway, yeah, I do suffer from mental illness. And I know that Carlos was in pain. He was hurt. He didn't know how to deal or cope with that pain. And sometimes, most of the time, people get into drugs that don't know how to cope, that don't have money for counseling, for a therapist, for all of that. I never got help at all. That's why I was in the justice system as a child growing up, But what I do want to say is that if it was Coronado, I do believe that it was a murder. It was a straight murder. how many times has he beat women up here in Old Bisbee? One, which sued the city for what, $50,000, $70,000, and he's still on the street. So what is it with Coronado that they haven't fired him yet? I mean, seriously. I mean, this is an ongoing thing. Carlos's death is the first murder, but there's ongoing assaults. I mean, he gets away with everything. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
My name is Judy Ludgreen. I've lived in and out of Bisbee for 12 years. I've defended people in state and federal courts for 25 years as a public defender and as a private attorney. And I have had my own family seriously impacted by mental illness. I lost my youngest sister to mental illness 18 years ago and spent the last month grieving it because it's the anniversary. And I know that everybody that loved Carlos and everybody that loved Officer Coronado are going to be affected by what happened every day for the rest of their lives. After my own family was affected by serious mental illness and always having clients who have addiction and mental health issues, about 50% of the time those two issues go hand in hand. I have spent so many extra hours trying to connect people with services in Cochise County, and I don't think that 95% of the people that work for the local law enforcement offices are even aware of this. But the people that you call when someone is having a mental health crisis is NurseWise. I have the phone number. You can write it down. It's run by Simpatico. Simpatico is the regional behavioral health authority for Cochise County. They just got their contract renewed, and they will be running the mental health services show with ACTS and CBIS and CIA and some other agencies under their umbrella for the next year or so. They're underfunded. Their own personnel are not all aware of how their services connect and what's available. But at least the starting point is to make that call to NurseWise. If you know somebody who you think is a danger to themselves or to other people, is at risk of suicide, whether they're intoxicated or not, you call them. It's 866-495-6735. It should be as easy as calling 911, and maybe we'll get to that point. As far as the professionalism of law enforcement, there are good and bad people in public defender offices, in prosecutor offices, in Walmart, in your local businesses. It's a shame to stereotype everybody based on an accusation against one person. I don't know Carlos. My heart grieves for his family. I don't know Officer Coronado. I know, as a defense attorney, that officers very often protect each other, even if it's just by leaving information out. I am one of the most cynical people you will ever meet after having fought these battles for over 25 years. I don't believe anything I read in the newspaper. I don't believe most of what people tell me. But I do believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt. We're having a crisis of confidence in the system. And it will only change if we fund it and if we all pay attention and do something. At the jail, the services are bare bones, no counseling. When you call somebody and the police decide to arrest that person, even if they would like to take them to a mental health facility, there are only a couple in the state of Arizona. They have to drive them to Tucson, where there may not be a bed available. It takes a community to help one person who has mental illness. You have to be willing to step up and make that report and sign the affidavit. If there's a drug house across your street, you have to contact law enforcement. You can do it anonymously, and if they are not responding, then that needs to go to their boss and to his boss and to his boss. That's unacceptable. Methamphetamine and heroin are in our high schools, they are ruining families, they are killing kids, and it leads to these kinds of things. You have to vote. Part of the funding problem is that so much of taxpayer money goes to the Arizona Department of Corrections to warehouse people. The purpose of incarceration for adults in Arizona is no longer rehabilitation. It is punishment.
Sorry, I just showed up right now. I'm the mother of the child of Carlos. Yeah. Hello. I'm sure y'all have said a lot. I haven't just now got here from out of town. I'm Melanie. I'm one of the mothers of the daughter of Carlos Ramirez. She's 10 years old, and there isn't anything that anybody could say to bring him back, but he really believed in himself as being a person of God. He called himself Thunder, and my kids, he calls little junior Thunders. And right now he's breathing thunder. I guarantee you it will be pouring, it will be thundering right now. There's nothing in the world that could change how the police officers came and took a life that should never be returned. They knew what they were dealing with when they went there. This, I feel, was something planned. It was something evil, and there's no justification for it. They should be taken down, put somewhere where they are not able to be holding the law in their hands. Choosing to take a life is something forever, and they had no conscience when they did this. And whatever. It's just bull crap if they did this to my family. And to all those people here that love him, thank you for coming. And my daughter, she didn't want to come because she didn't know what to expect of it, but she told me to tell you all thank you for coming. And we love you, Carlos, forever. Thank you, everybody.
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm Carlos's almost mother-in-law. I am the grandmother of one of his beautiful children. This was just recently given to me. This was one of the ones that Carlos was holding when he died. And I balked at going and getting it when it was first available to me about a month ago, because I just didn't know how to tell his daughter, this is all that there is for you from your dad. And I still haven't given it to her because I still don't want to see that pain in her eyes. And I know every person here has had a person pass away that doesn't want to tell the pain to somebody. We're not exclusive. But another person mentioned that they were from Sebas. I worked for Sebas as a nobody. I was a driver. But I can't tell you how many times the people that I possibly may have helped or had a hand in, they say, Lynn, nobody's helping us over there. Can you help us? What should I do? I was just a driver. But they were comforted by my van because I was a nobody. And I fit in with how they felt they were. And they are certainly a somebody. And I remember the last month that Carlos was in the rehab, and I encouraged him some of the things he needed to do, because I knew the way he and I had talked that his life was not really going to last a long time, because there was a lot of issues that he was holding back with. And I just know that I think he has a hand in this rainstorm right now. I think he wants to get everybody's attention. He could have died in the car wreck that gave him money for his funeral. Why was he spared? But maybe to come back and teach us all a lesson and to open our eyes of what individuals still need. And I just got this thought today, and I'm not a holier than thou, but I do try to listen when I'm in church. And I read a little portion, James 1:8.
A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And the police department and the sheriff department claimed they had 26, 36 issues with him. They knew what Carlos was about. And no, I wasn't there, and I'm sure there was a disrespectful situation. But one of the city employees high up there asked me 2 days after it happened, "Lynn, what's your take on this?" And I said, "Well, your child is doing the math and the social studies that my child is doing. Mr. Coronado's son is in my grandbaby's son class. And it's been hard. It's hard to face both sides. But, you know, the ratio is there. 200 whatever pounds to 100 little pounds. And an invalid at mind and body, I just feel that something else could have been done. But, you know, in that split second, I wasn't there. And I was a dispatcher when Bobby Coronado was coming on as the scout. He has his good ways, and so did Carlos. Thank you.